Hey, everybody, thanks for joining us once again. We've had a number of guests lined up for tonight, but they've all been waylaid or they're engaged in other activities, some of them political activities in this political season. So I think what we're going to do is I'll give a review of what we were going to discuss tonight, and then we'll try to regroup at a later date with the planned guest and explore the issues more in depth. But what we wanted to talk about was there's been a situation at the Lackawanna County Commissioners meetings where certain citizens have been shut down by one of the commissioners who claims that they were disruptive, this and that, and very strong language that they were ignorant and et cetera, et cetera. And those people are still objecting to that. Now, at the meeting just the other night, several of them were ejected, including Bob Boas, a local guy involved in politics. You probably know about Bob and his trucks. And so he was ejected from the meeting, he says, unfairly. So when we get him on again, he could explore that with us. And also, I wanted to talk about the attack on the First Amendment, the latest one coming from another notable figure, John Kerry, who you might remember was the Secretary of State under the Obama administration and also a secretary, a senator from Massachusetts. Now, he first came into prominence many years ago as a protester of the Vietnam War. He was a soldier. He came back who was protesting very loudly, very, very prominently about the government misinformation, disinformation with the Vietnam War. Now, at a recent appearance at the World Economic Forum, he's talking about the danger that the First Amendment presents in being able to control a population, being able to govern properly, because they say that it's very difficult with everybody having their own opinion and it being amplified on the internet, different sites, that it's hard to get a coherent opinion. But now this is John Kerry, former Secretary of State, talking about the dangers of the First Amendment. And then we also want to talk about the Vance-Walz debate and who won, who came out best. And I see we do have Bob Boas with us. Bob, thanks for joining us. Now, what happened? You were kicked out of the Lackawanna commissioners meeting the other night. How come?
Well, I've been kicked out of better places, Larry. What can I tell you? Dealing with people like Gahan, we dealt with him when he was a city councilman, then when he became the president. And he'll remember, and what started yesterday is I brought his skunk trailer. Because if anybody recalls, I did a trailer that had been in Lafayette when he was running, and I put his head on the body of a skunk.
Uh-huh.
Because he skunked us in Scranton, Naog, a mud pond, Biden Street, etc. I could go on and on.
Oh,
And what he did yesterday, I was there, I spoke about all the contributions I've done around the country, the dinner I do every Christmas for the last 30 years. And I challenged him. I said, you tell me what you've done. You tell me how many people you've employed. And between 81 and 92, I had 1,200 people all over the country.
mm-hmm.
And I said, did you ever have to worry about a paycheck, creating a payroll? You never had to do that. You lived off the government, jobs, teaching, this and that. And he's questioning who we are. And it went on and on. So then he got made some smart ass comment after I was done speaking. And I told him, I said, he needs to apologize to the people for his comments. You're here to represent the people. We're not here to represent you. And if you don't like the job, leave it. Go do something else. And don't insult people. Don't insult the taxpayers of this community or residents. And he became a little cocky. And I was done talking to him. Then he made a comment. Oh, you're not all your contributions. Why don't you pay your $900,000 in taxes? And I started laughing. I said, "You tell me what taxes I owe. Go ahead. How you came up with 900,000?" I went back to try and talk, and he started mouthing off with it naturally because he always likes to have the last word to degrade people. And I wasn't going to take his BS. I never did and never will. So as there, some lady started mouthing off, sitting down in front of me, and pointing her finger and waving at me. And I just looked at her and I laughed. I held my hand and I pointed to my shirt. I had the Trump shirt with Jesus Christ on it. I said, I don't want to hear what you got to say. This is going to be your next president. And then the next thing I know, I'm standing there, a sheriff's deputy comes up and physically grabs my left shoulder. And there's pictures that were taken by people that were there that showed the force that he did on my left shoulder, the way my shirt wrinkled up and everything else. And it was an immense pain. It was like I got stabbed in the shoulder. Now, I've gone through 5 shoulder surgeries, a left bicep section. And when he did that, the pain was intense. I left there, they escorted me out.
Well, let me ask this, Bob. Did you resist?
Nope. I was just standing there. I said, after he did that, I said, don't touch me. He
Okay,
looked, I
so
said, don't touch me. I'll leave. Don't touch me.
all right, let's back up a little bit here. According to the account in the Scranton Times newspaper, you were accused of being disruptive, so you had to be ejected. Now, the back and forth with him, did it stay within bounds? I mean, even harsh speech is protected by the First Amendment, but I mean, what was it that he could pin on you that you were disruptive to the point where you had to be removed? Was there was there any swearing? Was there any threats? Anything that would really
Nope.
require somebody being removed?
Alls I did, I went back toward the podium to respond to his negative insults to me about my donations and things I've done. And then he said the real estate. I said, well, tell me, trying to let him explain $900,000.
So he's
And
accusing you of owing back taxes, which you say you don't owe, correct?
well, no, there's back taxes I owe. And it's something I'll discuss with you, Larry, off the air. And you're going to be amazed at where we're heading and what direction is going to be coming down very shortly.
Mm-hmm.
But that's for another time. And once it does happen, then I have no problem telling you publicly what's going to happen.
All right, now I understand another commissioner, Chris Chermak, defended you guys in your right to speak up and not be harassed. And he did that at the last meeting as well, where you were not rejected, but you were roundly criticized by Gahan as well. So Chermak seemed to be defending you guys.
Well, he did. Chris is there to represent the people. He's not there to be cocky, arrogant. He knows that we're going to come in and we're going to have comments. The purpose of a good administrator is to listen to your constituents out there, digest because they're seeing things you don't see, and you're to digest it. It doesn't work that way with Gahan. And what upset me even more than Gahan, and I told that to McGloin, I used to cheer him on when I would sit there watching him play at Penn State when he played in the NFL. I'm very proud of him that he came from our area. He did this and did that. And I was disappointed that he sat silent and let Gahan bully the people that came to these meetings.
Gahan has pointed out, and by the way, I'll be seeking a comment from both Gahan and from Chris Chermak if they care to comment, because I want to get both sides of the story. But Gahan has said several times that he's a civic teacher, and therefore, he knows about government, and presumably he knows about the First Amendment as well.
The problem with him, Gary, he doesn't understand. He never created a job. He never created employment. He never had to worry like we all did. How did you make a payroll? How do you do that? He's lived off the system. Whether he was a teacher, a principal here, or he's never hired people.
Bob, you're considered a political gadfly, a polite term, a pain in the, what, by your critics. What drives you to keep this up after all these years? I mean, you're constantly in the paper, constantly being accused of everything under the sun, and yet you persist, even though you're a successful businessman. You don't need these headaches. Why do you do it?
It's my city. It's my country. And we all put a uniform on. We all did a lot of things for this country. And I have no intention of sitting back. And like I told him last night or yesterday, when he made his comments about the felony, first of all, the felony is being expunged. It should have been done already.
All right, explain that,
But
Bob. You got to remember, a lot of people listening don't know all this background. So, what was that all about? The felony?
the felony happened in 91 over a front end loader, and because somebody was very political in the town, he was able to influence a dirty lawyer, a dirty judge, and a dirty trooper that was his Pennsylvania sergeant.
Well,
And
what was the accusation about the front loader?
that I, for receiving stolen property, I paid for it, but when this trooper raided all my locations, somehow the bill of sale, everything we did, the guy even took post-dated checks, went to Fidelity Bank in Dunmore and Carrick one. Uh, the other individual where they took the machine to after it was confiscated from us, never paid a dime, used it, running all over, as you're aware of what we were looking for at one time, and you know who I'm talking about, and never paid for it, never did a dime. And in a hearing, made the comment when he was asked what he paid for it, because he claimed he bought it. And when he was asked what he paid for it, he said it was nobody's business what he paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
And the judge was asked to make him answer the question. And the judge's response was, "Is it important?" And the attorney I had there said, "Not at this time, it may be in the future."
Yeah, well,
And I got screwed because the whole thing in receiving stolen property is value.
all right. So
In other words,
they always use that against you. They always bring that up like you're this low life
they brought it all
criminal.
up. And the interesting part is that attorney later on became a judge.
Hmm.
And he's the one that made an approval for the individual that was involved there to expand something.
All right, Bob. Let's talk about local politics more generally. Now, you're a big Trump supporter. Your big semi-tractor trailer trucks are plastered with posters supporting Trump. Scranton is still a largely Democratic stronghold. With everything going on, with high inflation, high prices, high crime, et cetera, the millions coming in through the border unchecked, unvaccinated, whatever, given all this assistance. Now, doesn't that affect the working class people in Scranton to perhaps loosen their ties with the traditional Democratic Party, or are they still staunch Democrats?
Drive around and look at some of the signs that you see with Harris and Tampon Tim in the areas. And it's disturbing because if you look at her qualifications, like I said, ask Lakin Riley in heaven how it felt to be raped and murdered by an illegal that she let in the country. The reporter that died in San Francisco talking to her father out at San Francisco Harbor, when an illegal that was deported twice walked up and shot her and killed her. This was on Harris's watch.
Right, but what I'm asking though, Bob, is all of this stuff that you mentioned. How significant is it to the working class Democrats in the Scranton area who've traditionally been staunch Democrats because at one time the Democrats were strongly connected, strongly associated, strongly identified with the working class. The Democrats were the champions of the working class. Now, does that still hold true, or is it really changing? According to the polls, Pennsylvania is still a toss-up state.
Well, it is, and I've been out and around with a lot of people. And many, many years ago, when Bob Casey ran for governor, Bob had been one of my attorneys, and he was the one who sued a bank that we were successful in actually beating that destroyed my companies. And I was a Democrat. I ran against Joe McDade, and I was promised by the Democrat Party full financial support.
Mm-hmm.
And I campaigned her. I took out the LaRouche Democrat that was running against Casey.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when it was all over, the Democrat Party didn't do a damn thing. And I've been a Republican ever since because I saw exactly what they were really about.
Uh-huh.
And I became a Republican. I've been a Republican ever since.
Yeah.
I changed one time when I ran against Jim McNulty uh, and David Wenzel.
Yeah.
So just for the heck of it, I ran as an independent, held a meeting with him. I put dead flowers in front of McNulty, and in front of Wenzel, he had to ask Brian that was around all that time. So that was just a fun thing I did for the heck of it. But McNulty lost by 500 or so votes. I was very proud of what I did because he had a goal. But I brought the first steam town into Scranton from New Hope, Pennsylvania, when they said it couldn't be done. I brought it in on tractor trailers and everything, came into the
Uh-huh.
city, put tires into the house, lit them on fire. It looked like the engine was running when we came. Went all through the county and everywhere. McNulty was back in Rossi and Comerford at that time. And he ordered it out of the city because it was going to fall off the truck and create a hazard. So I went after him, and thank God I got rid of him.
Yeah, but again, Bob, what I'm asking is, since you're so active in the community, do you really see a softening of support for the Democratic Party?
I do. I've spoken to Democrats. What I've been at the last few weekends, I've been up at the mall, and we've been in other places with the trailers. We've had the Harris Tampon Tim trailer to show you what they were about, and we've had the Trump trailer. And we have grilled, cooking free hot dogs and a drink. And we've registered over 250 people already, 300 people. So a lot of them were Democrats that said they had enough. Looking at the candidate they got, Harris could keep talking, talking, talking. 3.5 years before she ever went to the border. And remember, she had the full authority as the czar. She didn't have to talk to Sleepy Joe, Congress. She could have walked in and shut the border down at any time.
You know,
She's ill-equipped mentally, physically, or whatever it is to run this country.
yeah, well, I mean,
She's the murderers, rapists, and everybody into this country. Thousands, hundreds of millions, hundreds of thousands of illegals that are here. And when they don't have nothing to eat, they're going to steal from your house. They're going to steal from or they're going to rob you.
do you see any signs of that affecting the Scranton area? And I mean, are there lots of illegals in the area?
We've seen them. They're around. Just drive around, go through Southside, go through what West Drive used to look like. Look at the populations around there anymore. And whether they're legal or illegal, nobody's checking them in the area. And we've got issues, but they don't want to talk about them. And naturally, you're not going to read it in the Scranton Times unless they can put something negative against somebody like Chris Kelly talking about the felonies. He had no clue what he was talking about because my felonies are already over. It's just a matter of a judge signing it, and a couple of the judges have already recused themselves from signing it. It should have been done 5 months ago. And by law, at that point, I'm legally entitled to it.
Well, you mentioned a columnist in the Scranton paper. Yeah, one of the problems is the death of local newspapers. It's even the Scranton Times now. The pages are physically thinner. The print is lighter. They've had a change of ownership. Staff has been laid off, and at one time, cities the size of Scranton and Scranton itself have more than one newspaper, so at least you get some difference of opinion. Now, it's all being contracted. It's all being like pushed on one side. And now, George Soros' son, according to reports, is buying up 200 radio stations. And according to reports, many of them carry conservative programs. So, how long will they last? Because Soros and his son have been funding all these woke, progressive, liberal prosecutors, judges, attorneys general, et cetera, et cetera. So, again, this contraction of the media and how it's all become really an arm of the Democratic Party in recent years That's bad. I mean, you still have the First Amendment, but they're attacking that too. I mentioned at the top of the show that John Kerry at the World Economic Forum recently made a statement that the First Amendment is troublesome because it makes the people hard to govern because they get so many different opinions. Now, he claims, it's so much disinformation and all that. But, as somebody who started his career, came to prominence as a protester of the Vietnam War, it was the First Amendment that allowed him to speak out against the government's version of the truth. Now he's turned it all around. Of course, since he was a war protester, he married Senator Hines's widow. He's a very wealthy man now. He travels in different circles, and his opinions are obviously changing. So, this is what we're up against. I mean, you're going up against a headwind there that keeps increasing in velocity because it's so one-sided now. It's objective reporting, and I've been in the business for decades, and I see the big change. I mean, reporters always have their own biases. The newspapers, outlets always have their own slants, but not to this extent. It was kept, somewhat in check or largely in check. But now, reporters and newspapers, different news platforms, outlets, they become propagandists and cheerleaders rather than objective reporters. And even the journalism schools now are going along with the idea that in order to achieve social justice, you don't have to give both sides of a story. You don't have to be objective. So, where are we going with this? We're in a very transitional time now. And, if this keeps up, if nothing changes, we are transitioning into days where many of our rights, and including the First Amendment, are no longer operative. So anyway, Bob, we've got other guests are supposed to join us tonight. We're going to try to regroup for another show. We're going to have more of a interchange on. But thanks for being with us tonight. And
one thing, Larry.
Yeah.
When you read the Scranton Times now, it's all about ads in the paper.
Yeah.
It's negativity, opinions in their opinion column. It's all about negative on Trump. What they're trying to do, if you remember during World War II, our bombers would drop out leaflets to the people because they believed what they read, they would understand, surrender, or do this or do that. And that's what they're trying to do with their opinion letters to the editor are all negative Trump, no matter what. And the stupidity behind them all, look back when Trump was in power.
Mm-hmm.
The drilling was going on, and they keep talking about fracking. Well, their stupidity is you can't frack until you drill. If you don't drill a hole, you're not going to be able to frack. Because fracking comes afterwards. And they're confused what they're even talking about, but they've hurt the gas industry tremendously. I mean, we're in the towing, heavy truck parts, and truck sales, and we've seen so many guys fold up right now under the administration of Harris and Biden with the gas industry. They've literally killed it. They shut the pipelines down. They've sold our crude to other countries. And they've destroyed the economy in this country. What we are. We don't need to support other countries. We have everything here. And something pretty interesting but stupid the other day I saw. I saw a mechanic sitting there. Oh, I can't get parts to fix your car. This and that. Some hoses for around the radiator hose and all that. And he's waiting for the ships. If they go on strike, I won't have parts. Then what the hell are we doing getting automobile parts from foreign countries when we have the mentality here? Blame the Biden administration. It's taking out companies, shipping stuff all over because it's cheap. And you got to blame the unions. Remember, you're entitled to a day's pay for a day's work. No more, no less. But when you look at the automakers, the guys working on the line, sitting on a little stool and putting 5 or 6 studs on a wheel, that's all they do all day. And they want this enormous amount of money. Take the laborers, take the women and people that were in the dress factories, the old garment industry, what they did, they all worked. And then the greed of the people there that owned them shipped everything over because it was cheaper to get it in
Yeah.
China or somewhere else. And we destroyed our garment industry.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to look, and, that's one of my favorite topics too, the outsourcing to China. The politicians worked hand in hand with the big corporations because the corporations gave big donations to the politicians who facilitated that outsourcing. And Joe Biden, despite what he says recently about China, he used to say, no problem with China, they're not going to eat our lunch. He was one of the chief cheerleaders to get China admitted to the World Trade Organization and also to bestow upon the most favored nation status, which gave them an even more advantage over U.S. manufacturing. So now the industrial base of the country is gutted, and we're suffering for it. It weakens the country. But this was all the upfront greed, and the country be damned 30, 40, 50 years when there are no jobs for anybody, and you can't buy even cheap products because you don't have a living wage anymore. But again, that's the way it works. The upfront greed takes over the long-term benefit.
Let me bring up something. Before I came on your show, I was on another Zoom with the trucking industry around the country about getting trucks together to take goods to the people that were devastated in Florida, the Carolinas, to get them whatever we could get to them. I'm donating 2 or 3 trailer loads of disinfectant wipes. They'll go to Florida. It's going to go to Asheville. It's going to get where they need it. We're dealing with the chef market, or the chef that prepares all the food around the country, and they've contacted me. So we're going to see that they get a trailer load of disinfectant wipes. They're serving the meals, give them the wipes, because a lot of them don't have any water supply, and they need this to cut down the disease. But what they don't understand, and what we were talking about, what Biden didn't understand, if it wasn't for the trucks, we would have absolutely nothing. And the first thing he did, raise the fuel prices, put the burden on the trucking. Well, you fill the truck up with fuel, guess what the manufacturer's got to pay now? He's going to pay a higher rate, and it flows down to the poor individual at home.
Yeah.
That's going to buy half a gallon of milk or a dozen eggs or clothes or shoes for their kids, or gas for their vehicle. And this is what he's done to the economy. And Harris was part of it. And listen to everything she says. I could care less where she's going. When you let out convicted murderers, rapists, and everybody else into this country, remember she said she was a district attorney, she was a prosecutor, and she became the attorney general. Look at her record. All the illegals, all the murderers, rapists, and people that went out and killed and stealed and raped other people on her watch. What makes her so competent? But the industry, our economy, is out there. I was on Interstate 81 today coming up, and they start working on the roads in the middle of the morning and shut traffic down for miles and miles and miles. Let them go to work at night where the traffic isn't as heavy. But they killed the commute. You're on your way. I was late for a doctor's appointment by 45 minutes today because of the stupid interstate shutdown. And none ticked me off more than some ignorant truck drivers, because if there were any of my drivers, they'd be fired right on the spot, is blocking the lane of traffic side by side with another truck rather than merge at the arrow like you're supposed to. But they sit there going 10 miles an hour, and in front of them is 2 miles of free lanes. They need to be taken out of their trucks, or somebody should just walk up, get in front of them, and put a knife through their front tire and let them block the road once and for all, and teach them a damn lesson. They don't belong there. If they want to be in law enforcement, then they got to go become cops and go block the road then, if you want to do it.
All right, Bob.
Our economy in Scranton, when we're talking to Democrats and all, my suggestion to them, what we saw with Gahan, he's a Democrat, and what the Democrats are trying to do, They don't want the people to have a brain or a will. They don't want you to speak. They don't want to hear your opinions because they don't give a damn what your opinion is.
And,
And
once
that's why I had the confrontation with him and said, I've been around a long time. I ran for mayor, I ran for Congress, and many, many years ago, I ran for commissioner against Patinato and Lugar.
yeah,
So I've tried to do what I believe from the background I had, the work ethic that a day's pay for a day's work. And the day is done when the job is done is the way I was raised. And I do that at my age right now today. And that's what I looked at I could influence in the city. I won't put up what's going on here. There'd be
Well-
a house cleaning, and what this mayor has done to this city on a liberal end of what she did. I bought the Ukraine flag and the Israeli flag. Oh, hell, when Zelensky came, she got her butt right down to get in the picture and all this and that. When he went to the Chamberlain and all that, oh, they were all there and this and that. But she won't fly the flag. She won't fly the Ukraine flag or the Israeli flag. But yet she wants all this and that. I never saw more hypocritical individuals in our community on the Democrat ticket that it's about them. They don't care about anybody else.
all right, Bob, topics for another night when we have a few more
Yes.
guests for an interchange. But thanks for being with us, and I know you'll keep us updated with your latest adventures and confrontations. And
Well, the trailer is going out tomorrow to, I've been contacted by the Trump administration. They want the Trump trailer with the picture of Jesus Christ on the side, divine intervention. They made space for it out in Butler, and my driver has taken it out. I was going to take it, but because of what happened at the commissioners meeting to my left shoulder, I'm not able to drive the truck. So I have to stand back and let somebody else go do it, thanks to Gahan.
okay,
And it's not over with, but that truck will be, I'm sure, on national TV, and it's to honor President Trump.
very good,
And
Bob.
that's what we're doing here. And we're sending trailer loads of product around the country through the trucking industry. Guys are volunteer to go do it. And they don't care about democracy or Republican or not. They're Americans.
Very good. That's a
That's
good.
what people are forgetting. We're
Good.
Americans. It's our country, and we're going to take it back, especially Lackawanna County.
Good closing thoughts. Bob, stay with us. We're going to go off the air, but stay with us and we'll try to figure out how we're going to put together a next show when we got a few more of the guests that were scheduled for tonight. So, folks
You
out
got it,
there,
brother.
thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again soon. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Just sit there, Bob.
Okay.